report and makes his statement. Thank you. Well, what should the school have done about Cho's mental health problems? Dr. Alan Lipman is a criminal psychologist and the executive director of the Center for the Study of Violence. He joins us right now. Doctor, what it sounds like is there was great confusion about what medical records people are able to share and what should be kept private.
Yes.
That still seems to be pretty confusing. Explain it to us.
I'll tell you something, Edie. I find this remarkable. You know, I've been with every school shooting over 10 years, Columbine, Paducah, Pearl, Jonesboro, Springfield, and it's still the case. You know, we have excellent information. We have the terrific U.S. Secret Service report, which details the causes of these events. We've got a line of work, my own work with adolescents at Yale, work in the law, and it's still the case that when these students and teachers and administrators saw Cho being violent and psychotic in and outside the classroom, they thought that they could not act because of privacy laws when they actually could. Now, I want people to understand this. And if you were a teacher or an administrator or a parent, now you're going to understand something that you haven't understood before. There were two laws in action here, HIPAA and FERPA. HIPAA covers privacy of medical records. FERPA covers privacy of educational records. Teachers and administrators think that they cannot say anything about a violent student because of those laws. But the fact of the matter is that under both of those laws, if a teacher sees a student being violent in the classroom, they have absolutely no obligation to prevent saying that information to a parent, to an administrator, to a teacher. They are not bound by those laws.
Can they take action, though? You know, I recall elementary school, and there was one gal in my classroom decided to stab somebody with scissors in their hand. That kid was out of the school the next day and never came back. You don't see that happening. I hear parents saying, you know, that there are problem children that are just left there.
Aaron, I got to tell you, I've seen it again and again over the years. People don't read what's on the books. The fact of the matter is that under both of the privacy laws, if you see a student who's a danger to themselves or a danger to others, you have the right to act.
Okay.
And
I have to stop you there, and I apologize because you are an excellent guest for this specific topic, and I'd like to bring you back in. But we want to take people out to Virginia right now. Governor Tim Kaine is speaking about the report.
On April 16th this year, a very tragic chapter was added to Virginia's history when a disturbed student, Sung-Wee Cho at Virginia Tech, killed 32 students and faculty members, wounded many others, and killed himself. The tragedy in the immediate aftermath raised very serious questions that deserved careful review and straightforward answers. The answers needed to come from people who possessed significant expertise in a wide variety of disciplines, and also from people who had the independence that would be necessary to render very careful, objective, and searching recommendations. On the 19th of April, I appointed the Virginia Tech Review Panel, and I charged them with performing that independent and objective review. I asked them to do the following, to focus on what went right and what went wrong,
talking about some of the
what were
findings
best
of the
practices
report
that
there.
should be
and I'd like to go
repeated and
back to
shared,
our previous guest,
and
Dr.
what
Alan
were
Lipman, because he is a criminal psychologist. He has studied children and violence and is the perfect person to talk about this. Let me ask you some very specific questions about things that he said there. He said first that the family knew about his problems. From elementary school years on, they knew about his problems. Can colleges get medical or behavioral reports from schools when they are determining whether or not to offer an acceptance to a child?
can colleges get them from schools?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Are they, they're able to get the transcripts. Can they also ask a high school, do you have any behavioral problems with this child? Any kind of report?
Yes. Under FERPA, which is the educational component of the Privacy Act, they can get them under what is essentially the third piece of that law, which is if the child is seen to be a danger to themselves or others. But, Aaron, let's focus on a bigger part of Governor Kaine's report. This is an excellent report, one of the best that I have seen and read. And many people, like with many such reports, will not read it. You should. Go to the Virginia website, read the report. This is a high-quality report. Now, Governor Kaine made a very central point, and I want to repeat it to all your viewers now. He said the dots were not connected. People did not connect the dots. And then he went on to express his concern, as I had been saying right before the conference, that there is confusion amongst the people most responsible for our children about the very privacy laws that would allow them to inform parents, health professionals, law enforcement professionals, hospitals, teachers, other students, residence advisors about these dangers.
Yeah, hopefully,
we can do this.
Yeah,
Aaron,
hopefully the schools.
And they don't know it.
Hopefully the schools will start talking about that. Another question: if a child enters a college, as this person did, and then there are clear issues with their mental stability, he is in fact sent into a treatment facility.
Well,
can a college
and involuntarily committed, as was the case with Joe? Can
a college basically pull the acceptance, say, I'm sorry, you're not allowed back on campus?
They can, and in fact they have. Now the question there is, once they do that, in other words, they are able to do that within the law, but then there's a question of civil liability. In other words, under that case, the student or the family of the student might sue in a civil proceeding. Now, this is seen as a barrier in these cases, but there's very important work that's going on in this area. If we compare this, Aaron, to cases of child abuse, where a child is being brutally neglected or abused by their parents, you can get a court order to pull that child out of the family with a shield against liability. You can do the same thing if parents aren't providing necessary medical treatment to a child. We can provide that same kind of legal standard for kids that are about to harm someone in school. We simply have not yet drafted that legislation, and listen up, we should. That will save lives.
As you said, people should go online and read this report. Dr. Alan Lipman, thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome.